Welcome back. Where we're going to start now is by recognizing that sleep is a very, very cyclical event. And I want you to notice that on the bottom here, I've got them marked off in hour-and-a-half segments. What I need you to notice is that also the cycling changes as far as its structure is concerned. Notice that in the first 2, sometimes 3 cycles, we get what's called stage 4 sleep. But notice by the end of the evening, we're no longer getting any stage 4 sleep. By the end of the sleeping period, notice also that the REM periods here are getting bigger. So that not only do we have a cycle that goes through sleep every 90 minutes, but that cycle and the structure of each cycle changes as we go through sleep. So sleep isn't uniform throughout the sleeping period. It actually changes. We call those periods of sleep that contain stage 4 sleep core sleep, C-O-R-E, core sleep. We call those periods or cycles that contain no stage 4 optional sleep. So what I want to do for you now is to take you through sleep as a sleep researcher sees you. And we're going to start with a strange little state of consciousness known as the hypnagogic. The hypnagogic isn't awake or it isn't asleep. It's kind of a state unto itself. The hypnagogic is where you start to get comfortable. You go through a little routine, you know, like a dog going around in a circle. Huh? I'm not saying that you go around in a circle. Well, maybe a couple of you do, but you know. Most of us have a little routine that we go through. I'll explain mine to you, then you can maybe figure yours out. I lay on my back, right arm over my eyes, left hand underneath the pillow, squished up against my face. Left leg over right. I lay there for maybe, 10, 15 minutes. I'm the type of person that runs through their day. I plan my next day. I throw a couple of fantasies in for fun. And you thought you were the only one who did it, huh? Yeah, right. Yeah, some of them are really good, aren't they? Then I roll onto my stomach, turn the pillow over to the cool side. Kick my outside leg out of bed up on top of the sheets. I got to have one foot out of bed. I can't go to sleep without having one foot out of bed. Am I the only one here? Where are you? I know you're in here. Good. We do it with kids as well. We take kids right into the hypnagogic, and this is where the phrase, the more ritualized you are, the better sleeper you are, comes from. Because with kids, if they've got a healthy sleeping habit, we ritualize them right into sleep. In our house, you could literally set your watch by where we were in the pre-sleep ritual. It starts off with the argument about going to bed. Just 5 more minutes, just 5 more minutes. Right? And then it's a warm bath, hint. A warm bath, hint. A warm bath, hint. Then there's read a story and have a snack. Right? Then upstairs, brush your teeth, have a pee. Then it's into bed. Then there's a whole ritual about saying goodnight. Right? Rub a back, kissy, 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 rub a back, right? And then there's a whole ritual about saying goodnight. As I walk down the stairs, it'd be good night, see you in the morning, see you in the morning. Don't forget Daddy loves you, don't forget I love you too. You know that one? When my foot used to hit the last stair of the staircase, I'd hear, Dad, can I have a drink of water? It's all part of the ritual. Right? I've even stood on that last stair and waited for them. And waited. And finally said, hey, Mike. Yeah, Dad? Aren't you thirsty? Oh, yeah. Can I have a drink of water? It's all part of the ritual of going to sleep. If you've watched these nanny 911 shows, you ever not watched it on TV? And we would have these little monsters that are on there. I mean, what's the common denominator with all those kids? They don't have a pre-sleep ritual. They don't have a ritual about going to sleep. The more ritualized you are, the better sleeper you are. The more you go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time, the better off you are. It's as simple as that. And the hypnagogic is where we set our body into motion, into sleep. I got interested in sleep after watching some Tibetan Buddhist monks. We have a large community of Tibetan Buddhist monks in the Gatineau Hills just off of, outside of Ottawa. And I was absolutely fascinated by their ritual because they literally meditate themselves into sleep. They have a pre-sleep meditation that they know everything about sleep, but from a very experiential point of view. So everything that we found out through our science, they know through their experience. And we know, for example, that as you go into sleep, there's a different change in your visual field. You get some colors happening and little shapes that happen. And when they go to sleep, they take those shapes and they turn them into a mandala, a circular icon that they use. And so for me, it became such an interesting part of being a human to try and figure out that little transformational point from the time that you are in the hypnagogic until you hit what's called stage 1 sleep. Let me show you what it looks like. Now, if you look at this, these two lines here are eye movements. We place really small electrodes, really tiny little electrodes. Can I just borrow your pen just for a sec? Thank you. No bigger than the end of this cap. All right, really tiny little electrodes, really small ones. And we place them on the outside of the orbit. Now, if you take your little finger and you put your finger on the outside of your eye here, there's a flat in your orbit. If you just put your finger on there lightly and then just blink, and you'll feel the muscle movement around your eye. That's what those electrodes are picking up. Now, if you look, oh, you've already got another one. If you look at this is the right eye, and that's the left eye. If you'll notice, all of these little flicks here, all of these little flicks, it means that the individual's looking over there, looking at something that's on the right-hand side. The only time we know when the eyes come back to the center is where we get this flick here and then another one at the top. Now, we'd know that he would start looking from here over to here if there was a mirror of that movement up here. Right, so you get the mirror effect. Alrighty? Then we know that the eyes have moved from one side to the other. These 4 lines here are brainwave activity. And we place electrodes, the C electrodes, 3 is left, 4 is right, and they're called central, they're up here. P3, P4 is what's called parietals, and they're placed up here. We typically don't put electrodes on the back of the head because most people sleep on the back of their head, and we get a lot of noise on the electrodes. Likewise, we don't put a lot of them on the front part of the head because we get a lot of movement up here. So this is the best placement for those. This bottom line here is what's called an EMG, electromyogram. What it does is it measures the muscle movement underneath the chin. The muscle that we use to, it's kind of a reflector muscle. In other words, it reflects the general tightness of the body or the general looseness of the body. And this is one of the reasons we use this little muscle underneath here. The interesting thing about it is that all of the muscles that go up the jaw and hook up here are connected to this muscle. So when this muscle goes flaccid or it goes soft, all of these muscles go soft. That's why your jaw drops open when you're falling asleep. That's why you look stupid when you're falling asleep. You may have noticed this on a lot of conservatives. With all due respect. All right, so it was 4. Oh, dear. So the next thing I want to introduce you to is what's called stage 1. European researchers, some Spanish researchers, have called stage 1 sleep, and I absolutely love this, gating sleep. Their idea is that in stage 1 sleep, you set the groundwork for the rest of the sleep. So how you go into stage 1 sleep then determines the framework of the rest of the sleeping period. So if you go to sleep really anxious, that's going to be reflected through the rest of your sleeping period. So one of the things that Delgado suggests in his work is that in stage 1 and the hypnagogic is where it's a really good idea to use a good relaxation technique. Using a relaxation technique and taking yourself into sleep stabilizes your sleep. I mean, it's such a simple thing when you think about it. But in stage 1 sleep, to me, stage 1 sleep is a very, very fast stage of sleep. Like typically, we're looking at no more than 5 minutes. In all the years that I've been watching people sleep, I don't think I've ever seen it go over 7 minutes. But I'll tell you one thing. We had one individual in our lab. Now, our lab used to take up a large chunk of the second floor of the Social Science Research Building at Carleton University. And the rooms were down in this portion of the corridor here. It was 2 bedrooms. And here it was where all of the computers were. And we plugged the individual into the wall, literally, plugged the wires into a wall. And the wires go into amplifiers, which are here, and then over to the computers. I had this one guy, because I was really interested in whether or not, if you go to sleep really quickly, does it mean that you sleep better than if you take a long time to go to sleep? That was my hypothesis, was that the shorter amount of time that you use to go to sleep, the better your sleeping quality. It proved to be wrong. So what I did is I had 3 different types of people coming into the lab. I had people that took under 5 minutes to go to sleep, people that took between 5 and 20 minutes to go to sleep, and people that took over 20 minutes to go to sleep. So I had this one guy come in for an interview, and I said to him, "How long does it take you to go to sleep?" And he says, "I don't know." I said, "Well, guess." And he says, "I don't know." I said, "Is that under 5 minutes?" Oh, he says, "Definitely." So I said, "Okay, you're in." And I thought to myself, "Oh, I hope I don't catch him." In other words, I hope I'm not on. Well, I was. Let me try and explain this to you. Here's the bed here. I get the guy wired into the wall. I walk out of here. There's a partition like this, so we have to go all the way down like here and then come back up this way. Maybe from here, walking back to the back wall. Right? So how long would you think that would take me? 45 seconds? Maybe half a minute. Yeah? Okay. So I get him all tucked in, right? Close the door, walk all the way around here, look at what's called the real-time screen. In other words, it shows me exactly what's going on real time, not delayed, right? I look at the screen, sucker's asleep. Right? I got to get a baseline, right? I got to get my amplifiers all tuned. That means that I got to have at least 2 minutes of what we call resting baseline. So I have to go back into the lab, right? Say, "Yo, boy, sit up, wake up," right? Sit on the edge of the bed, put your feet, don't go to sleep. "Okay," he says, right? So I get the amplifiers all tuned up. I get on the PA system to him and I say, "Okay, you can go to sleep now." He says, "Okay," right? So I'm looking at the real-time screen. From the time that he closes his eyes, I know he closes his eyes because of the eye channels that I've got going, until his brain registered sleep. In other words, there was a vertex sharp wave in the EEG registering stage 1. Over 5 consecutive nights, he averaged 5.7 seconds. Federal government worker. He was. Oh, dear. What? As a liberal? Oh, God. No comment. Oh, I'm not a liberal. Oh, no. No. Well, he was one of the short onset sleepers, right? But what I found really interesting, I said to him, "How long have you been able to do this?" And he said, ever since I was in the Navy.
Was he married?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Married. But think about it. They were on a 4-on, 4-off system. 4 hours on, 4 hours off. And he said, I didn't know anyone on that ship that couldn't fall asleep just like that. And I've also talked to a lot of doctors in residence who say exactly the same thing. That they can put their head on the pillow and boom, gone. That they actually train themselves. Oh, look at this. Look at this here. So on average, though, stage 1 sleep takes approximately 5 to 7 minutes. Right? This is what it looks like. And you've seen people in stage 1 sleep. Yeah, you have. I mean, people can drive a car in stage 1 sleep. They can actually stand there and talk to you in stage 1 sleep. This is what it looks like. Look at the eye movements. Do you remember I talked to you about the mirror effect? Right? But notice here that the brain is starting to slow down, so you're starting to see a higher amplitude, bigger wave, and the frequency is longer. Right? So you're getting a wider wave here. It's starting to get, and these little things here are called vertex sharp waves, and you only see those in stage 1 sleep. But they look like this, right? The eye movements look like this. And if you've ever been in a meeting or at church, right? If you've ever been, I mean, there's this wonderful person at church, right? Bless her heart. I mean, she comes and she gets all dolled up, really looking really good, right? And then she sits there and it's, right? She's in stage 1 sleep. Bless her heart. You thought sleep was boring, huh? Stage 2 sleep, in my book, I called stage 2 sleep the zoo. In stage 2 sleep, the strangest things happen in stage 2 sleep. Like you swear to God you've fallen out of bed. All of a sudden you're playing baseball and somebody throws something at you and you duck out of the way of it. Or you get these massive kicks, right? They're called myoclonic jerks. So the next time you're in a meeting and somebody's, ticking you off, you can call them a myoclonic jerk, right? So in stage 2 sleep, when you wake people up out of stage 2 sleep and you say to them, were you awake or were you asleep? 9 times out of 10, they'll say I was awake. Most people in stage 2 sleep don't know that they're asleep. They'll say, oh, I was just thinking about something. If you've ever had those nights in which you swear that you'd never had any sleep, that all you were doing was just chattering to yourself and you're running past things and everything else, but when you look at the clock, magically it's gone ahead an hour, you've been in stage 2 sleep. Neat, huh? And you've all experienced it. You ever been on the couch? You're watching TV. Just happen to have your eyes closed, but you're watching TV. You got absolutely every single behavior in the world that you're asleep, right? Eyes are closed, mouth is open, you got a bit of drool happening, right? And you got the breath going. You know what I mean by the breath? You know those? You parade 60 million people past the couch and you say to them, is it awake or is it asleep? 60 million would say, it's definitely asleep. But Lord help anybody that changes the channel. What happens? Excuse me. I was watching that. And you say, well, come on, you were asleep. No, I wasn't. I was just resting my eyes. Yeah, right. You're in stage 2 sleep. Males in stage 2 sleep can snort so loud that they'll frighten themselves. And if you've ever watched a male snort themselves back into wakefulness, it's hilarious. Because it's like this. Stage 2 sleep is where you get the little micro sleeps. One of these. I mean, stage 2 sleep is so much fun. So much fun. You get a lot of restless leg in stage 2. You get a lot of this going in stage 2. I get a lot of teeth grinding happening in stage 2. A lot of things happen in stage 2 sleep. This is what it looks like. Now, notice that the eye movement channels, interestingly enough, are now starting to pick up some of the activity on the EEG. So the brainwave activity, notice that the waves are getting much bigger now and much wider. So what we say is the frequency is slowing down and the amplitude is increasing. All righty? Now look at the EMG. Almost flat. Almost flat. So we've got this going. Kids go into stage 2 sleep really quickly. If you've ever had a child fall asleep on you, notice that 2 things happen. They get really hot. You notice that? If you have a little baby on you, they get really hot. What's happening is their core body temperature is dipping, and they're ventilating the heat. And when you hold the little one, it feels like they're really hot, because what they're doing is ventilating the heat. But it's not until they hit their equivalency of stage 4 sleep, or what we call slow wave sleep, that you really begin to notice how heavy they are. Not notice that? I mean, when our kids were really little, and we'd go out to somebody's place and we put them on the bed, right, and they go to sleep, and then when we were going home, we'd pick them up and they'd be just like this sack of potatoes. I mean, so heavy. They're in stage 3, 4 sleep. One of the best books on the market for sleep research is written by James Horne, H-O-R-N-E. It's called Why We Sleep. And I really agree with Horne. I mean, there's a lot of other researchers which have different theories about why it is that we sleep. But I really like what Horne says, because he's got a good amount of science to back it up. He's an incredibly tight researcher. One of the things that he talks about is the fact that when you and I have slow wave sleep, it stabilizes a lot of biochemical rhythms in our system. Horne suggests that there are 26 separate biochemical systems which are either activated or stabilized in stage 4 sleep. If you were a student of mine at the college now, it would take me at least 9 hours to take you through what happens in stage 3, 4 sleep. It's that complex. I can't do that for you, but I would really like you to know about 4 things that happen in stage 4 sleep. First, in stage 4 sleep, and only during stage 4 sleep, your body stabilizes a number of steroids. One in particular that is the foundation of your immunity system. Second, during stage 4 sleep, you get the largest amount of impact of growth hormone in the system than any other time during the day. Growth hormone for a child is absolutely essential for physical growth, cognitive development. For you and I, well, there's 2 theories here. One school of thought says that growth hormone in the adult repairs cells. The other school says that it stops any further decline of cell quality. Can you hear the difference between the 2? Regardless, human growth hormone seems to be an essential aspect of what it is that you and I need when we go to sleep. Third, during stage 4 sleep, your body stabilizes sodium. The one thing that I tell my shift workers is that at night there's this immense craving for sodium, for salt. And that if you can turn around and instead of indulging the sodium craving, go after potassium-rich foods. And we don't know why yet. I mean, we're still in the infancy of trying to figure this one out. But what we do know is that if you eat potassium-rich foods on a night shift, the interesting thing is that the sodium cravings go away. Likewise, the sugar cravings go away. If you don't know what foods are rich in potassium, again, I invite you to go up to the website and download that list of potassium-rich foods. So the fourth one, obviously, then, is that during stage 4 sleep, your body stabilizes potassium. Now, the other thing, too, is that we know that stage 4 sleep is absolutely essential, that we lose stage 4 sleep as we grow older. So think about it this way. Children, neonates, newborns, have two basic types of sleep, one called active sleep and the other one called passive sleep. So passive sleep is their equivalency of what an adult has in stage 4. And about 40% to 55% of their total sleep time is spent in stage 4. So you've got a range of variation between 40 and 55%. When the child is around 2 years of age and running around, interestingly enough, it drops down to about 35 to 40% again, until they go through a growth spurt. And as soon as they're about to go into a growth spurt, the slow wave sleep count goes back up again. Adolescents look like babies. They have a huge amount of slow wave sleep. Huge amount. Sometimes as much as 45 to 55%. Then around 20 to 25 years of age, the human animal crosses a line never ever to return. And within a period of a year, between the age of 20 and 25, slow wave sleep count drops to 20%. And by the time you're my age, 64, you're down to 3%. Nature's natural way of assuring that you're going to die. The interesting thing for me is I've got this wonderful subject by the name of Sidney Bijou, who reports that when you look at he's 97. Children. Oh, good. Shut them off. That's a girl. Take control. Right. He's 97. He's got about 3% slow wave. In other words, he's sleeping like a 60-year-old. Again, I'm not saying that if you follow what I'm going to say, you're going to have a longer life. But what I am going to suggest to you is that the quality is going to improve because your sleep's going to improve. This is not a longevity thing. Although what we do know is that people that have a longer life expectancy, a longer lifespan, typically sleep much younger than they are chronologically. Yeah? And it all has to do with stage 4. Let me show you what it looks like. Ready? Do you remember what the rest of them look like? All right, now watch. Isn't that something else? Look at the brainwave activity. The brainwave activity, literally what we're using when we're awake, is a very, very thin veneer of our brain called the cortex. It's about 1/8 of an inch. And that's what we're using when we're awake. When we go to sleep, that thin veneer over the cortex literally slows down. It slows down to the point where it almost shuts off. It looks like it's shutting off. But what's interesting is that the upper brain stem that sits underneath the cortices lights up like a Christmas tree. And it's busy. I mean, it's really busy. And then once it's done its work, once it's done all of these, checked all of these subsystems out and done all of its work, then we start to see the brain pattern change. And then it goes back up into a higher level of activity. But look at the EMG. Oops, darn. Go there. Look at the EMG. Notice that the brainwave activity is so large that the eye movement channels are reflecting the brainwave activity. The brain is literally going boom, boom. And the little electrodes on the outside of the eye are picking up the same activity. Interesting, huh? You must have heard of rapid eye movement sleep. Rapid eye movement sleep is what is typically referred to as dreaming sleep. David Fawkes, many, many years ago, showed very clearly that you and I dream all night long, that we never stop dreaming. It's just that REM dreams tend to be more colorful, more active, and we tend to remember them. If you wake up in the morning with a very, very clear memory of a dream, the chances are 9 out of 10 that you've woken up out of REM. If you wake up in the morning with a very fuzzy memory of a dream or no memory of a dream whatsoever, the chances are equally as good that you've woken up out of ascending stage 2. Most people that remember dreams clearly wake up at the end of the REM period. Men in the room, you got a piece of equipment on your body which will tell you whether you've woken up out of REM or non-REM sleep. Oh yeah, and it has nothing to do with your bladder. Every single REM period, males get an erection. That must be thrilling news for a couple of you who thought you haven't had one in years. To know that you get 3 or 4 a night. The first 2 are nothing to write home about. The last 2 would make your eyes water. I mean, females have full vaginal engorgement. So for a lot of couples, it's a matter of timing. I was thinking of developing this machine. What? Give me a break, okay? It would have 2 6-foot-long latex hands, fully articulated, under the bed, on top of each other like this. Right? You with me on this one? Right? It would be connected to a motor that would be connected to a computer that would have little electrodes plugged in. And when the 2 of you hit rapid eye movement sleep simultaneously, it would activate the hands would come out from underneath the bed, grab the 2 of you and go. What do you think? He wants the prototype. I got to tell you this story. I'm in Winnipeg with the Manitoba Nurses Association. And I'm doing my thing up here, like I'm doing tonight. And there's this one woman at the back of the room who hadn't cracked a smile all night. I mean, she sat there and it was one of these. And I thought, oh, God, you know. And I just finished doing the machine thing, and she puts up her hand. And I thought, oh, here it comes. You know. And she says, I have a question. And I said, what is it? She said, would I have to wake up? Dear. Oh, dear. Oh, no, I just cracked up. What do you say after that? I mean, God. Oh, my God. Okay, let's take a look at what it looks like. There's rapid eye movement sleep.
Tell her I'm busy.
Yeah. Notice, look at the eye movements. Aren't they beautiful? And notice the EEG. Looks like you're awake. The early sleep researchers back in the 50s, 40s, 50s, and 60s used to call rapid eye movement sleep paradoxical sleep because the EEG looks like you're awake, but the EMG shows that you're paralyzed. In REM sleep, you can't move. You're literally paralyzed. And if you've ever had the experience where you know you're awake, but you can't move, anybody? Yeah, right? It's called sleep paralysis. The frontal lobes here are awake, but the motor cortex over here is asleep and in REM. And it's a pretty frightening thing. If you've never had it before, the first time I had it, I thought, oh, we're gone. Right? But notice how remarkably close to awake the EEG is. You can see that there's a few wide or low amplitude, low frequency waves in here, but it does look a lot like being awake. So let's make sure we understand that sleep is cyclical, travels in cycles. All right. And that core sleep, to use Horn's term, core sleep is those cycles that contain stage 3-4. And that stage 3-4 typically happens when core body temperature is going down. Therefore, it happens typically on the front end of your sleeping cycle. The latter part of the sleeping period is occupied typically by a lot of rapid eye movement sleep in stage 2. We clear on that one? The key to my way of thinking is that we need to make sure that A, our sleep is stabilized, and second, that we get a lot of slow wave. The more slow wave we get, the better our body repairs. Fair enough? So let's figure out how we do that. And this is what the science has to say. You got to train people, first of all, about their bedroom. Bedrooms are really, really important. I call it a chronohygienic bedroom. Good, healthy timing for your sleep bedroom. And let's first of all talk about your bed. Your bed should be the best piece of furniture in the house. Period. I mean, you spend a third of your life on it. My rule is this: the first 2 years of a live-in relationship, you buy the cheapest mattress you can find. You're going to destroy the thing anyways, right? After you're out of your rabbit phase, that's when you buy the best mattress you can find. Right? Research work shows very, very clearly, still the best mattress is an individually coiled spring mattress. An individually coiled spring mattress, the bowling ball mattress. That's number one. Number two, air mattresses, the ones that you can adjust. Then way down the list, I mean, those are the top 2 types of mattresses. Way down the list, memory foam. Memory foam does not have a good reputation in the literature. The reason for it is that it really does stop you from moving. You know how have you seen the ads for memory foam on TV? Right, where they get somebody bouncing around and there's a glass of wine on the other side of it and it doesn't move? The problem is you need to move. Think about it though, what was it developed for? It was developed for astronauts who are strapped into bed. Hey, if you like being strapped into bed, you know, that's the mattress for you. But the thing is, most of the time, it was just like waterbeds. Waterbeds were supposedly wonderful until about 2 or 3 years later, the individuals started to develop back problems because of waterbeds. I mean, waterbeds are way down at the bottom. Likewise with futons, way down at the bottom. The thing is that most places now that sell mattresses will allow you to sleep on a mattress for at least a month to get used to it, to see whether or not it fits you. As long as you sign an agreement that you're going to buy a mattress from them, they'll give you a mattress to try out. I mean, most places will do that. I know a number of the retail outlets that sell nothing but mattresses do that. Also, please get yourself 100% cotton sheets. First of all, what cotton does, rather than a polyester blend, is that it dissipates your heat. And if you have cotton sheets on the bed, you know you can always find a nice cool spot for your foot. But polyester kicks up a lot of lint as well. So one of the things also that I'm going to suggest to you is vacuum your mattress. You have absolutely no idea what's in there. I mean, if you knew what's in there, you'd vacuum your mattress tonight when you get home. I mean, first of all, there are dead nematodes in there. Nematodes are little microscopic worms, right? And they're all over you. I mean, they cover every single inch of you. I mean, they're cleaning you off. And at night, when your core body temperature drops, they die. But only in a couple of hours later, they're repopulated. You know, they're hungry little guys, right? And they drop off and into the mattress they go. So you get all these little nematodes. Think about that the next time you lick somebody. You get a tongue full of nematodes. Right? You got dust mites in there. You've got dead skin in there. You've got dried drool in there. I mean, you've got everything. Vacuum your mattress. Pillows. Get yourself a good pillow. Spend some time and figure out what the best pillow is for you. It took, I've gone through at least a couple of dozen different kinds of pillows. And I've settled on one which I absolutely love. I bring it with me. And it's a water pillow. And what it is a 100% organic cotton top, right, with 100% organic filler in it. And then underneath it has a bladder that you literally fill up with water. And so the first thing that I do when I get into a hotel room is that I fill up my pillow. And for me, it is such a wonderful experience to lay on this pillow because it gives me such great support. And I'm prone to having apnea simply because of the way I'm built. Like I got my dad's body, right? So I'm heavy on the top, and I've got a short neck. So I'm prime candidate for apnea. So anything that gives me support, that allows me to breathe easier, that's what I want. Now, Dawn, on the other hand, sleeps with a double roll pillow, and she really likes that. I tried them, can't do it. Can't do it. Doesn't give me a good feel. But please make sure, again, that, I mean, some people keep the same pillow for 15, 20 years. I mean, you look at the pillow itself, and it looks like a tie-dye from the 1970s. I mean, all this brown stuff all over the place. Oh, God. And what happened? I mean, the critters that are in there, you wouldn't believe because they live off your drool. Right? So you drool in there, and all these little critters say, "Oh, manna from heaven." Right? And I mean they're eating stuff, and they think, "Oh, this is wonderful." Right? And then you inhale all of that. Change your pillow, for God's sakes. I mean, you shouldn't have a pillow for any longer than, at least 6 months. Come on. Think about it. Think about it. I mean, the nice thing about if you get a pillow that you can wash, yeah, put it in the washing machine and dryer. I can do that with mine. Put it on the gentle cycle, and away we go. Change your bed linen a lot, please. I mean, I know some people that every couple of weeks. I change mine twice a week. Let's talk about temperature. Your bedroom should be at least 5 degrees cooler than the rest of the house. You sleep better in a cooler room, period. If you can, crank a window open, regardless of the time of year. Get some fresh air coming into the room. Really simply put it this way to you. When fresh air coming into the room, you negatively charge the environment. The more negatively charged the environment is, the better you sleep. You can get these little machines now, and we had them in our house, I guess starting maybe mid-1980s was the first ones that came out with what's called negative ionizers. And we had them in the house. And it was amazing the number of times that people that came to visit and slept over were saying, "God, that the air smelled so good in the room," and I really felt I had a good night's sleep. They're really inexpensive now. And you can go online. There's a negative ionizer distributor out of Vancouver that is about $20 a unit cheaper than anywhere else. And we've got the little ones like so. They look like about the size of this unit here. And they're quiet. You don't hear any hum or anything else like that. They're really quiet. All they do is they pull the air in, charge it, and push it back out again. You can get real fancy ones that you can put on your heating and air conditioning unit. But the little ones will do a room just fine. The other thing, too, is when we talk about temperature, the question that I've always had is what stabilizes sleep, and why is it that we give kids warm baths? What does that possibly do, and can it possibly change the structure of the sleep? Well, it's all about your core body temperature. So what happens is that, how does that happen? Well, a warm bath 1 to 4 hours prior to going to sleep, what it does, there it is. What it does is that it spikes your core body temperature. Your hypothalamus sitting up on your upper brainstem, really stupid organ, doesn't know you're sitting in warm water. All it says is, "How come we so hot?" Right? And it says, we messing around? No. We got a fever? No. What the heck's wrong, it says. So what it does is it turns your body temperature down really quickly. You ever notice that, though? If any of you are bath takers, that especially with me, I'll start to drop off in the bathtub. Right? As your core body temperature begins to drop, you get this nice long slope. Well, we do it with kids. Why don't we do it with us? Why? Because most of us don't have the time. We're too busy. The thing is, when you take a warm bath, Nicoletti suggests this in his research work, is that you got to heat the lower portion of the system. Anything that heats the lower portion of the system is good. If you need another note for home, let me know. So you have this nice long slope, which means what? Come on now. If you've got a nice long slope, what are you going to get? More what? Good for you. More stage 4. Which seems to be a really good idea. I mean, it seems like it's a really good idea. What else do we know stabilizes sleep and improves stage 4? Exercise. If you are aerobically fit for your age, you have more stage 4 sleep than somebody that's the same age as you but's not aerobically fit. However, even if you're not aerobically fit, doing something as simple as going for a walk 1 to 4 hours prior to going to sleep will significantly stabilize your sleep. We used to be a walking culture. I remember my mom and dad, after supper, we'd go out for a walk. But isn't it interesting that we've quit that as well? I mean, I happen to be really lucky. I live with somebody that likes to walk. And so Don and I actually moved into the house that we're in now for one reason. I know this may sound absolutely bizarre to you, but it's the truth. We picked this one house because it was about 2 or 3 minutes walk away from the experimental farm in Ottawa. The experimental farm is right in the middle of Ottawa. And literally, you can walk out of our door, walk down Trent Street for no more than about 4 or 5 houses, cross Fisher Avenue, and we're right into the experimental farm. And then every day, we go for our walk. And we've got 4 or 5 different routes. Some of them are 20 minutes, one is 40 minutes, the other one's an hour and a half, and we do our walk. And one of the interesting thing is that what Dawn is doing now is that Dawn's in perimenopause. And one of the things that she's done is that she's really treated herself like a scientific experiment, and she's figured out how to take care of night sweats, how to take care of the insomnia that goes along with menopause, and the other thing, how to control the mood swings. And I'm getting her to write it up, even if it's in point form, just what she's done, and then we'll send that up to the site. So I think it's really important. But one of the key things that she says has really influenced the change that she's gone through is exercise. And one of the things that she's done is she's started taking Ashtanga yoga, which is a very flow type of yoga. And what she's found with that is that a lot of the sleep-related difficulties that she had prior to that are gone. Well, we stretch naturally, don't we? We naturally stretch. What yoga is just a really beautiful form of stretching. I mean, come on. When you walk out of here tonight, more than likely you'll say, I knew all of that. I knew all of that. Didn't tell me anything I didn't already know. Maybe some fancy-ass thing about sleep. But I knew all of that. Then my question to you is, how come you're not doing it? If you knew it, how come you're not doing it? Cooler bedroom. I had to poke it again. Cooler bedroom. We ran an experiment got to be 10, 15 years ago now. Individuals that came into we only selected those subjects that said that they can only sleep in a warm room. And we had them in for 6 nights. And randomly over those 6 nights, we had 3 nights that once they hit descending stage 2 and heading into stage 3, we turned the temperature down by 5 degrees. And on the nights that we turned the temperature down 5 degrees, the sleep was far more stable when compared to the nights when they slept in the room where they set the temperature, and we left it there. We know that sleeping in a cooler room stabilizes your sleep. So we've talked about the bed, we've talked about temperature, now we're going to talk about noise. Turn off your TVs. If you've got a TV in your bedroom, shoot it. I mean, one of the worst things that you can do if you've got kids and they've got a TV in their room is let them go to sleep with the TV on. I mean, again, go back to the Nanny 911 shows. I mean, most of those kids have got TVs in their rooms. If it's part of your ritual, and again, with all due respect, if I understand that if part of going to sleep is using a TV to go to sleep, a lot of people do. Set the timer so that it switches the TV off in 20 minutes. Back to your question, right? 20 minutes takes you into stage 2. You go any further, you go down into stage 4. The flicker frequency coming off the TV will keep your sleep light. You hearing what I'm saying? Like just the rapid change in the imagery on the TV will keep your sleep light. Because in stage 2, literally your brain's saying, what's that? What's that? What's that? And the other thing that'll keep you up in light sleep is the change in the volume, the audio track. You know that. I mean, you know that commercials are significantly louder than programs. So please, I understand if you use TVs as part of your going to sleep ritual, good enough. But set the timer so that it goes off after 20 minutes. Or, even better, get rid of the darn thing. Put a nice little white noise generator in there. Like a fan. You can actually buy a little white noise generator that has the sound of the sea, or just a little shh that covers up the sounds. And if you've got a noisy house, that's a really good idea. The last thing that we got to talk about in this particular section is the use of light. Oh, this is such an important part. Okay, those of you that are dropping off, can you just wake up just for a second? All right, because this is a really important part. All right, learn to sleep in the darkest room possible. If you come to the hotel where I'm staying now, I'm staying at the Comfort Inn. Okay, I carry with me in my bag a timer, along with my pillow, a timer, and clothes pegs and push pins. And what I do, literally, is that I pin the drapes closed, and I put all of the push pins around the drapes so that, you know, don't tell Comfort in this, okay? Right? But I tack all of the drapes around the windows so I get absolutely no light. I put a towel on the bottom so that I don't get any light coming underneath the door. I know I'm anal. It's okay, right? But the thing is, I really believe in it, and it works for me. I also take the bedside lamp, and I carry with me a full spectrum bulb. A full spectrum bulb is a bulb that mimics sunlight. In our house, all of the bulbs in our house are full spectrum lighting. Next time you yawn, let it go, all right? Don't hold it. I know you're trying to be polite, all right? But just let it go, all right? Come on, you can do it, right? Like the next time, just right? Full spectrum bulbs you can get pretty much anywhere, especially those places that sell stuff that you can grow in closets. I don't know why I said that. In our house, virtually all of the bulbs in our house are full spectrum lighting. And the reason for it is really quite simple. When you wake up into the light, you shut down melatonin production. Do you have not noticed that it's a lot easier to wake up in the spring and summer than it is in the fall and winter? You're waking up into the light. So what I do is that I set my timer for 1/2 hour before I know I'm going to get up. I'm a 6-hour sleeper. I know it takes me approximately 20 minutes to go to sleep, so I know how to set my timer. The timer switches on the bedside lamp. My body's flooded in light. Melatonin is shut down. So I wake up completely free of melatonin in my system, which means I wake up more refreshed. So I literally carry sunlight with me. I know it sounds bizarre, but it really works. I mean, especially if you're a shift worker, especially if you have difficulty with depression. I mean, a lot of physicians finally are coming to understand the importance of light therapy in dealing with a lot of endogenous depression. I mean, it's a lot easier to give somebody a pill, but it's a lot cheaper for them to sit in front of a light box in the morning and to have full spectrum light when they wake up. That makes sense to you? Yeah. I mean, it's such a little thing to do. I mean, what's the timer cost you? Maybe $15? And I mean, you can get them really fancy now, so that there's one timer I noticed that's available on the internet, where it will literally turn the light up slowly. So like got a rheostat in it, so it just turns it up really, really slowly. I want one, but I have to wait. You got to train people about what they eat affects their sleep. Okay, so let's talk about that. What stabilizes sleep and nutrition? Well, let's go to the opposite way. What we know is that protein, 1 to 4 hours prior to going to bed, fragments the hell out of sleep. Okay, now I'm going to stop here and tell you this. We started late tonight, all right? So I've got about another 15 minutes. That's going to take us to about 10 after 10. Is that going to be okay with you? Okay. Just to let you know. Protein, 4 to 5 hours prior to going to bed, fragments the hell out of sleep. But guess when we eat most of our protein? 4 to 5 hours before we go to sleep. Now the point is, did we always do that? Margaret Visser, in a wonderful book called The Rituals of Dinner, talks about the fact that we didn't always eat protein in the latter part of our waking period. Matter of fact, most of our protein intake traditionally, we're talking about back in the 40s and 50s and prior to the Second World War, traditionally the largest amount of protein that we would ingest would be at our dinner meal, the noon meal. And what we also know is that low glucose carbohydrates stabilize sleep and promote slow wave. I mean, Bennett showed us that 20 years ago. Now, what we have is then, kids know this naturally. What's part of this, the ritual of going to sleep for a child? They ask for a snack. What do they ask for? They either toast, cereal, or fruit. They ask for a carbohydrate. They don't ask for a pork chop, right? They ask for a carbohydrate. They don't ask for a protein. They naturally know that carbohydrates stabilize sleep. Intuitively, built right into their little system, they know it. They know that that's what their system needs. So what I'm going to suggest to you is, look what happens, right? Why did we move our protein down to the end of our waking period? Well, Visser suggests that 3 things happened. First, the traditional food preparers, this is after the Second World War, the traditional food preparers in our society also went out to work. Females went out to work. Second, we started working further and further and further and further away from home, so we couldn't get home for dinner. Don't forget, our meals used to be labeled breakfast, dinner, supper. Right? Lunch is a post-Second World War phenomenon. So we've got food preparers go to work, working further away from home. Finally, big one here, our dinner breaks used to be 2 hours. Still is in Europe. I mean, people often think of, you know, a downtime in the afternoon only associated with really warm, geographically warm cultures, like Spain and Portugal and things like that. But try to get anything done in Paris between 12 and 3. I mean, the French have got it right. They're having a little wine, they're having a little something to eat, making a little love, you know, doing all. I mean, they got it right. You and I, what happened to our lunch periods? It got shortened down. And to the point now where I've seen people literally working and eating at the same time. I mean, we've got to start to think about the insanity that this culture is driving us toward. Because where do we take that insanity? Right into bed. Low glucose carbohydrates we know stabilizes sleep. What else do we know? This is the wonderful work of Charles Ehret. I had the absolute pleasure of meeting Charles Ehret. I mean, he's one of my heroes. He's one of those wonderful scientists that dedicates a career to trying to figure out the answers to very simple questions. Can you imagine spending 30 years answering 3 questions? He did. I mean, these beautiful pieces of research to get a little part of the jigsaw puzzle until he had the answer. And I met him, and he says to me, I understand you talk about my work. And I said, yep. He says, how much do you talk about? I said, all of it. And he said, how long does it take you to do that? And I said, about 4 minutes. And he says to me, 4 minutes? It takes you 4 minutes to talk about my research work? And I said, yeah. He said, tell me how you do it. I said, well, what was your first question you asked? First question that he asked was, what does the human system need when it comes out of a sleeping period? All right, so what's the composition of the first meal of the waking period? And what he found was that what the body needs is a balance between proteins and carbohydrates. And whenever Ehret talked about carbohydrates, he talks about low glucose carbohydrates. In other words, low sugar level carbohydrates. His second question was, what's the composition of the dinner meal? And can that possibly influence this? And what he found was that what your body needs in the second meal of the waking period, high protein, low carbohydrates. What does it do? Well, Parmigiani suggests this, that you put protein in here, it raises the core body temperature here, so you get a more shallow post-lunch dip. But the body's expecting this dip. So what it does is it compensates. And in the evening, literally, it raises the core body temperature up here. Because now it's compensating for the loss here. With me on this one? Right? And so now you've got a longer slope. So literally, what you eat at noon affects what you get at night. Isn't that bizarre? I mean, we're such an interrelated creature, yes? I mean, what we do here affects something over here. Where's my little thing? There it is. Oh. This is the meal you take into bed. And what is it? Low in protein, high in carbohydrates. Try it. Try it. I mean, if you're on a special diet now because of diabetes or whatever, stay there. That's something else. But for those of you, try it. Try it for a while. Don't try it for a couple of days. You know, I love these people who get a CPAP machine, and they spend a couple of days with the CPAP machine, and they say, "Bah, it doesn't work." I throw it away. You got to spend at least a couple of weeks with it until your body gets used to it. CPAP is a breathing machine, airflow machine that actually helps with apnea. Okay, what else? Oh, here we go. Simply put to you, caffeine's a sleep destroyer. The problem is there are people like me on the planet that can sit on the edge of the bed, drink a cup of coffee, and be asleep in 5 minutes. But I know from research work on myself, and thanks to Terry Pivick at the University of Ottawa, who ran a really interesting study that I was part of, on the days that I caffeinated myself, oh, you should see my sleep. Fragmented. Oh. And what happens with people who drink a lot of coffee? What's the very first thing they head to as soon as they get up? Cup of coffee. What amazes me is that most people that are addicted to caffeine also, there's a concomitant behavior that goes along with it. Most of them don't eat breakfast. And I'm amazed that close to 40% of Canadians don't eat breakfast. I don't know how people survive without breakfast. For most people, breakfast is lots of coffee. It takes 10 hours to clear 80 milligrams of caffeine. $80 milligrams of caffeine. So if you get a small Tim's, the rule of thumb is 250 milligrams of caffeine resident in your system when you go to sleep, fragment stage 4. I love coffee. It's one of my favorite beverages. I love coffee. Don got on my case about how much coffee I was drinking a few years back. And it was about how much coffee I was drinking. And she'd come downstairs and say, "You're not going to have another coffee, are you?" And I said, "No, dear, I'm not. I'm going to have another pot." I used to drink, I was never, you can ask her, I was never without my mug. Constantly drinking coffee. And then after about a month of, right, after about a month of that, she suddenly dropped it. And I thought, oh, thank God that's over. The deal is that on Saturday, she does the grocery shop and I clean the house. That's the deal. I figure I got the best deal. I put on my Walkman, turn it up to 11. All right? And then she does the shopping. One Saturday, this is after she quit, one Saturday I go shopping with her. And we've got these coffee places in Ottawa called Second Cup. It's like a retailer of coffee. And I usually gave her a list of the coffee that I wanted. And one of my favorite coffees is a dark roast Colombian coffee. So I go shopping with her this one Saturday. I don't know what got into me, but I went shopping, and she's at this store and she's talking to this lady behind the counter who obviously knows her because she's using first names. And I hear this woman behind the counter say to her, "Do you want me to put the decaffeinated Colombian coffee beans in a regular Colombian bag as usual?" I got decaffeinated and I didn't even know it. You know what's interesting? I'd go into the sleep lab, right? I'd have a coffee at the sleep lab and I'd get jangled. I'd get that, right? And I said to Hoffman, look, I said, you know, $5 million lab here. And I said, you buy cheap coffee. He said, I've had enough of you. You buy the coffee from now on. I'd go home and say, you know the coffee that you buy for the house? And it's only in retrospect do I realize why she looks so sheepish, right? And she said, yeah. I said, I want exactly the same coffee for the lab. Okay, she says. I decaffeinated 12 individuals and they never knew it. Do yourself a favor, decaffeinate yourself. Okay, here comes some really basic stuff for you, all right? This is basic stuff. Higher the fats content in your diet, more fragmented your sleep. The higher the fiber content in your diet, the more stable your sleep. Period. And one of the better ways of figuring out whether you've got enough fiber in your system is to look in the toilet. Now, I know you don't do this. I know most of you just kind of slide off the bowl, close the lid, and flush. You never look in there, right? Everybody looks. You can't tell me at least once in your life you haven't got off the toilet, looked in the bowl, and said to yourself, how does corn do that? Poor little Peter, right, comes down, says to me, it's when he was maybe 4 or 5 years old, because we've taught our kids how important looking in the toilet is. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of information in there. Right? He comes running downstairs, and he's got this really petrified look on his face, and he says, I'm dying. And I said, well, yeah, you kind of are, but you got a long life in front of you. Don't worry about it. No, he said, I'm dying right now. And I said, what, your older brother been telling you you're going to die again? No. He says, I know I'm going to die. So I said, how do you know? He said, come upstairs. So I go upstairs, and he points in the toilet. He said, look at that, I'm dying. And I looked in the toilet, and I said, okay, look, remember Grandma came over last night, brought you that big jar of pickled beets, and you ate the whole thing? What happens when you eat pickled beets? How do you know? Gotcha. I love a setup. If you've got a nicely formed log in there, and it's kind of floating, you got enough fiber. If it's sunk to the bottom, and it's got no form, you don't have enough fiber. Do you realize how warped you are now? Do you realize the next time you're on the toilet, the curiosity is going to kill you? And you're going to get up one morning, and it's going to be sunk to the bottom, and it's got no shape whatsoever, and you're going to look at it, and you're going to say to yourself, shit. Okay, what did Shearer say? What did he say? Oh, yeah, I got to improve my fiber. I don't know how much fiber's in food. Oh, go up to the website and get the big fiber counter. Oh, good. And then you'll eat a lot of fiber for a week. And then one day you'll have one of these magnificent, I mean, you'll get off the can and there's going to be this little armada in there. Right? And you're going to look at it and you're going to say, yes! Right? Then you're going to have this mad, passionate urge to tell somebody. Don't email me your results. I swear this is true. I've had cops in Toronto slow down, saw me walking down the street, slow down, roll down the window, and yell out, I've had a floater. Right. When we used to have secretaries, we don't have secretaries anymore. I remember this one secretary of ours at Carleton said to me, came down to my office, she said, what are you telling people? I said, why? And she says, I get these really strange calls. Just tell them I had 3 floaters in a row. It's Michael. That's Peter. I didn't put a picture of Don up because I don't want to ruin the picture that you've got in your own head. I don't care how you organize your family, but your family is one of the most important variables. I mean, if you live with people that love you and care for you and really treat you with respect, treat you honestly, I mean, it can't help but improve the quality of your life, and by that, improve the quality of your sleep. And